Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a virtual world deck profile. So I'm really excited for this one because this deck is actually sprung from like nowhere to being a tier 1 deck, which is absolutely crazy. If you haven't already picked up your Lulus, I'm really sorry. This deck is really expensive now and really crazy in how well and how consistent it can actually be. Summoning True King of all calamities like crazy, and just being able to throw so many hand traps in this deck, it's absolutely insane. If you guys want to pick up a tier 1 deck, this is probably the deck for you. It's really fun and really crazy and kind of feels a little bit like Burning Abyss. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below because we got some awesome rewards. You guys like getting your name description for every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, or even getting a Twist deck profile every single month to your Patreon along with test hands. So without further ado guys, let's get straight on into this. And I feel super bad because I actually picked up my Lulus for like $3 each. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Virtual World Lulu. This card is really good in the deck. Basically what she does is if this card is in your hand, you can target one of your Virtual Worlds cards you control and send one Virtual World card with a different name or different type, monster, spell, or trap from your deck to the graveyard. And if you do, you get special summon this card, then you get to add a Virtual World card from the third type from your deck to your hand, which is a really kind of a weird effect that I've never seen before. So it's just kind of a weird effect. Then we have also the ability that for the rest of the turn, you can only special summon level rank 3 or higher monsters, which is kind of neat because it locks you into synchros and XZs, which is why I really started playtesting this deck and wanted to pick it up as quickly as possible. We then play 3 copies of Nan Nan, I think is how you say that. You guys are going to let me know. But what this card does is if a level 3 monsters is normal or special summon to your field while this card is in your graveyard, then you get to special summon this card as a tuner monster, but banish it when it leaves the field. And also for the rest of the turn, you can only special summon level 3/rank of 3 or higher. And if this card is banished, you can target one other banished card, shuffle it into the deck, which is pretty cool. And it kind of combos well with like Desires and stuff like that, or combos well with other cards that banish cards in the deck. We then play 2 copies of GG, I think. I'm going to mispronounce a lot of these. I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys know. But GG is a really good card because this card has a super good effect that if this card is in your hand, you can target another virtual card you control, send one virtual card of a different type monster, spell, or trap from your deck to the graveyard. And if you do, you get to special summon this card from your hand until the end phase of this turn. Or during the end phase of the turn, you get to add one Virtual World monster from your graveyard to your hand, except another copy of itself. And for the rest of the turn, you gotta special summon anything that's level 3/rank 3 or higher. You can only special summon rank 3 or level 3 or higher monsters. We then play 3 copies of Lao Lao. This card is really good. I love that they have a level 6 tuner monster because it unleashes powers of Ultimaya. I'm not playing Ultimaya on my build, but you can play Ultimaya in this deck, which is kind of neat. But what this card does is if this card is in your hand, you can target one Virtual World card you control, send a Virtual World card of a different type from monster, spell, or trap from your deck to the graveyard. And if you do, you special summon this card, and then you get to special summon one Virtual World monster from your graveyard in defense position, and then with a different name than that card sent to the graveyard, but negate its effects. And for the rest of the turn, you can only special summon level 3 or rank 3 or higher monsters for the rest of the turn, which is pretty cool too. We then play 2 copies of Lao Lao. I believe that's how you say that. But what this card it does is also it's a level 6 monster, but it's not a tuner. And it shares the same ability like all the other ones that if this card's in your hand, you get to target a Virtual World card you control, send one from your deck to the graveyard from monster, spell, or trap. And if you do, you get special summon this card from your hand, then you get to send another Virtual World card of the same type from your deck to the graveyard, except another copy of itself. And then you cannot, it has the same restriction where you can't special summon anything that's level 3 or rank 3 or higher, or anything that's lower for the rest of the turn. So nothing, all of their restrictions are basically level 3 or rank 3. You can only special summon level 3 or rank 3 or higher monsters for the rest of the turn. So for instance, you can't special summon a level 1 or a level 2 or any link monsters at all in this deck. So that's it pretty much for the Virtual Worlds. For the hand traps, we're playing a single copy of Psyframe Driver for the copies of the Psyframe Gammas. Gamma is really good in this deck too because Gamma is just really good at stopping other like hand traps, and it kind of works with like, it kind of is like Called by the Grave in a way that it stops hand traps, because if your opponent activates a card, then you can just activate this and negate it essentially during the first turn, which is kind of nice. We play 3 copies of Ash Blossom as well. The 3 Ash just kind of stop like they stop your opponent from touching the deck, which is super nice. And then we play Double Nibiru. I like the Double Nibiru because Double Nibiru is, in my opinion, better than Triple. because I don't want to brick with multiple Debirus in my hand, especially when I'm trying to get to my virtual world cards as quickly as possible. And basically, I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown. Basically, you're playing 3 of every single virtual world card that was released, and then you add a bunch of hand traps into the deck and a couple of tech cards. And that's pretty much how the deck works. I mean, it's very simplistic. That's why it reminds me a lot of BA when it first released, because Burning Abyss felt like this, where you just put every single card that they gave you in the deck at 3, and then you threw in like rises and stuff like that were good cards at the time in the deck. And that's why it reminds me of how BA was when it first released. And it came out tier 1 right out the gate, like this deck did, which is kind of cool, until they banned Calamities, and then the deck goes to like tier 2-ish. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. And also, they kind of share the same ability that you can special summon them by sending a card. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Call by the Grave, because I just don't want to get hit by hand traps in this deck. You already play the copies of Gamma, which is going to help out a little bit, but this card's going to just give you that extra mile to stop your opponent. We play 2 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. Foolish Burial Goods just helps out in the deck a lot, because it can send your virtual world gate Quan Long to the graveyard to be able to get you additional plays, which is super nice because this is essentially the road of the deck. We play 3 copies of Desires in this deck. I know I kind of feel weird about it, but I think that the 3 Desires is really needed in this particular build, because it's so, like, none of your monsters in this deck at all, like a single one, matters if you banish it. Like if you banish all 3 of a certain card, it's fine. You just need to flow into the next card. So it just, to me, it's not that big of a deal to hit him with the Desires and not worry about what you're actually sending, because you have so many options in this deck. We play a single copy of Emergency Teleport. The Emergency Teleport comes in pretty handy because you play so many Psychics in this deck, and so many level 3 Psychics in the deck. Then we play 3 of the Virtual World City. Virtual World City is really, really interesting. It lets you place a Virtual World Gate card from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone, and then you get to apply the following effects in sequence based on the number of Virtual World Gates cards you control. If you have 2, you get to all Virtual World monsters you control gain 2 under attack this turn. Not very good. 3, you get to send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. That's pretty good. Or 4, you get to special summon up to 4 Virtual World with different names from your extra deck. What? That is insane. You get to special summon literally 4 Virtual World monsters from your extra deck that are from, like, instantly from the extra deck. That is ridiculously good. But at the current moment, we don't have 4 gates with different names. But it's really, really, or we have gates, but we don't have enough gates yet. We need more gates for this deck, the final effect, to really be super consistent in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Virtual World Gate Quan Long. Quan Long is pretty good because you get to banish 1 Virtual World card from your graveyard, and then you get to target 1 face-up monster on the field and negate its effects until the end phase of the turn, even if it leaves the field. And then you can banish this card from your graveyard to add a Virtual World monster from your deck to your hand. Then send a card from your hand to the graveyard, which is pretty good just to be able to search the deck a little bit to get whatever you particularly need quickly, to be able to go off with this deck, which is why this deck is super consistent. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So we only play 3 traps in the entire deck, and then it's 3 copies of the Virtual World Gate Txne. This card is really good because you get to target 1 face-up card on the field, shuffle 2 cards from your banished Virtual World cards with different names from each other into the deck. Then you can destroy that card, which is pretty good just to be able to get you resources back, destroy a card on the field. Really good card. And then during your main phase, you can manage this card from your graveyard. Then you get to target a Virtual World monster you control, increase or decrease its level or rank by 3, which is cool to help you increase to get into a copy of True King of All Calamities really easily. If you have a level 6 on your side of the field, it's just ridiculously easy to go into Calamities with this card, just banishing it. You can send it to the graveyard with your copy of your Foolish Burial Goods. It just is really easy to activate this card, pop 2, or shuffle back 2, pop a card, and then banish it later, and then summon Calamities with this card. Is ridiculous, and it's just overall really good. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to open up with 1 copy of Virtual World QB. This card is basically Macrocosmos on legs, because it has the ability that any card sent to the graveyard from the field to the graveyard is banished instead. And you only use each effect of this card following each Virtual World QB once per turn. When your opponent declares an attack, you can return 1 of your banished monsters to the owner's graveyard. And then during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish 2 other monsters from the graveyard with different original names, type, and attribute. from each other, and then special summon this card from the graveyard. So it just constantly recurs itself, and it's literally Macrocosmos on legs and Dimensional Fissure on legs. This card is ridiculously good and is overall like insane. Like, I love this card, and was actually the reason I picked this deck up, was because of QB. We then play a single copy of Vermilion Dragon Mech. Essentially, it's just a level 9 to help you go into Calamities a little bit easier, and it's really easy to go into level 9 synchros. Like, this deck, if you look at the deck, you can see that it goes 3, 6, 9. Like, that's the way that the deck goes. You have level 3 tuners, you have a level that you can make rank 3s with, you have level 3 tuners and level 3 monsters to make level 6 tuner monster, or level 6 synchro monsters, and then you have level 6 tuner monsters and level 3 monsters in the deck to go into rank 9. So you have 3, 6, and 9. If you can count to 3, 6, 9, you can play this deck, essentially. This card also has a really cool effect. Lets you banish a tuner monster from your hand, graveyard, or face it from your field to target one card on the field and destroy it. And if this synchro summon card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target a banished tuner monster and add it back to your hand. We then play a single copy of Ragnus Croco Dragon. Croco Dragon is really good because it's really easy to make, helps you draw cards, which is really good, and also lets you discard 2 and then target a card on the field and destroy it. I really like this card in this deck, and it's probably one of the best rank 9s ever created, or level 9s ever created for synchros. You play a single copy of Cloud Castle, which is essentially a 1-card Calamities. One copy of Juji is really good because what this card does is it can't be destroyed by battle or by card effects. So you have 2 or more monsters in your graveyard with the same original type and attribute, which makes it really hard for your opponent to deal with because it can't be destroyed by battle or by card effects. It's just difficult to deal with, and it's an overall really good card. It also has the ability that you can manage 2 cards from your graveyard with the same original type and attribute, but different names, and then target 1 card on the field and send it to the graveyard. So it does target, but it does send to the graveyard, so it doesn't destroy, so it's a really good card. 1 Stardust Charge Warrior, because it helps you draw from the deck. You get to synchro summon this card, and then you get to draw a card, which helps out. 1 copy of Coral Dragon. Coral Dragon is, again, really good in this deck because you have that ability to just draw an extra card when it's synchro summon. And also it has the ability, or when it's, if this card is synchro summon, is sent to the graveyard, you get to draw a card, and then you can discard a card from your hand to target a card on the field and destroy it, which is pretty good in this deck as well, just to be able to pop something. You play a double-A Zeus because you play so many XZs in this deck. It's just ridiculous, and double-A Zeus is probably one of the best XZs monsters in the entire game. I hope they make like a Poseidon and a Hades as well. That'd be cool. We play double True King of All Calamities, which is essentially skill drain when it's on the field, which is ridiculous. If you guys don't know what this does, you've been living under a rock, and I don't know what to tell you, but basically what this card does is once per turn, during either player's turn, you can detach a material from this card to declare an attribute. This turn, all face-up monsters become that original attribute, and also all monsters your opponent's possession with the attribute cannot activate their effects or attack at all. And then monsters that True Draco, and then the rest of the effect doesn't matter, like unless you're playing it in True Draco. This card is ridiculous. I love this card, but I really think it needs to be banned, and it's probably going to get hit on the next list. So enjoy this card while it lasts. We then play a single copy of number 39, Utopic Beyond. Utopic Beyond is a card that I like in this deck because it helps you like OTK your opponent, because if this card is XZ summon, you can make all monster your opponent control go to 0 attack, and then whatever you have on the field, if you have 8,000 on board, you win. We play a single copy of Fan Fan. Fan Fan lets you once per turn detach 2 materials from this card, target a card, face a card your opponent controls, and 1 card in their graveyard, banish them both. And if this XZ summon card is destroyed by battle and by an opponent's attacking monster or by an opponent's card effect, while it has in the monster zone, you can special summon 2 virtual world monsters with the same type and attribute as each other from your deck, which is really good just to be able to replace itself. Play a single copy of Breaksword. Breaksword just helps us pop cards on our side of the field and cards on our opponent's side of the field. Number 75 because it's an additional negation, and it's just overall ridiculously good because it lets you once per turn when an opponent's monster activates its effect, detach 2 materials and negate the activation, or the activated effect becomes draw a card. I draw a card, which is really good. And then we play a single copy of Jaja. Jaja is really good because it lets you once per turn detach a material from this card and then target a face-up monster your opponent controls. It cannot be destroyed by battle, or target 1 face-up monster you control. It cannot be destroyed by battle until the end of your opponent's turn. And then once per turn, after damage calculation, if this card battle an opponent's monster, we have 2 or more monsters in your graveyard with the same original type and attribute, you manage that opponent's monster. Really good effect. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a really insane tier 1 deck. I've been playtesting this deck like crazy, and it's fun. I have to say, it is really fun to play around with. I highly recommend that if you guys want to pick this deck up, I would consider waiting until the ban list, because if Calamities does get banned, this deck is going to fall off the map. I think it's going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be tier 1 good anymore. I think Calamities it's kind of like riding on Calamities' back right now to be able to be a completely tier 1 deck, but I think it'll be a totally different deck once Calamities gets banned, if it does get banned. So that's it for this deck, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.